In this video we're looking at indirect statement, which is reported speech. It's a sentence like, the boy said that he was eating. So when his speech, I am eating, is reported. It's also known as accusative and infinitive, and that's a very good way of remembering how to translate it. If you remember accusative and infinitive, you will not forget how to translate indirect statement. Now before we start, it's worth having a look at how infinitives are used in Latin. Now certainly up to GCSE, the only time you're ever going to meet an infinitive is going to be either a verb that takes an infinitive, so imperator hostes oppugnari voluit, the general wanted to attack the enemy. And you can see here I have an infinitive, ari, and it's right next to the verb that is governing it. So he wanted to attack. The second reason is going to be indirect statement. And you can see straight away that there are some major differences here. The general said that he wanted to attack the enemy. In fact, I have two infinitives here. I still have to attack, which is based on want, but want also has turned into the infinitive. Let's look at how that works in more detail. So this is an indirect statement. I have a very obvious saying word, the boys said. Now immediately after the saying word, the clause starts. And I sometimes teach to put in a square bracket after that to show where the indirect statement actually is. Because now I have an accusative which comes straight after the saying word, and the verb at the end of the sentence has become an infinitive. Now the rule that I learned to start with, accusative and infinitive, now works. The boys said, and I translate that first of all. So I put in a that. It's not there in the Latin, but it's good to say it in English. The boys said that. Then I say the accusative, the master. Then I say the infinitive. But I don't keep it as an infinitive, I turn it into a main verb. Was teaching well. Why have I used a present infinitive? Well, I've used a present infinitive because that's the tense that the boy used when he used direct speech. He said, the teacher is teaching well. But in English we say, the boy said that the master was teaching well. Let's look at the second sentence. I have a speaking word, in this case shouted, so I can put my bracket immediately after the speaking word all the way to the infinitive. Then I have accusative plus infinitive. Let's follow the rules again. The citizens shouted. First of all, I'm going to put in that. The citizens shouted that accusative, the enemy, infinitive, were approaching ad muros, the walls. Why have I got a present infinitive? Because what they actually shouted was, the enemy are approaching the walls, in the present tense. And my last sentence, I can do exactly the same thing. I have Dixit, so I'm going to put a bracket in immediately after the saying word, up to the infinitive at the end. Now the first accusative here is actually say. So we need to watch say. It's a very important word with indirect statement. It refers back to the subject of the sentence. So in this sentence, because mater is feminine, the mother said that, say, she. If the father was talking, it'd be pater dixit say, the father said that he. And so we need to keep an eye on what the subject is to make sure that we translate say correctly. The mother said that, she, then to my infinitive, wanted, and then of course want takes an infinitive, to find her daughters. Let's just look at those tenses of the infinitive. Amari is very common, we meet it a lot. You need to watch out for that passive one. It's a bit hard to find sometimes, especially with a verb like rego, where it actually loses a syllable as well. But for the other three, we have essi, we have issi, and we have essi. So we do actually have an infinitive there that you can spot. How do I know it's the future? Well, I use the future participle, which we should recognize. How do I know it's the perfect passive? Well, I use the infinitive plus the perfect participle, which I should recognize. How do those tenses actually translate into English? Well, Dixit se amicum videri. He said that. Now he says in the present tense, I see my friend. If we put Dixit with that, English doesn't help us here, but we should be able to work out what it is. He said that he saw his friend. I see my friend. He said that he saw his friend. With the future, well, I will see my friend. He said that he would see his friend. And finally, I have seen my friend. Well, in English, that's going to turn into he said that he had seen his friend. Would see and had seen are by far the most common indirect statements that you're going to find. Dixit se ab amico videri, well, now we've gone into the passive. So he said that he was seen by his friend. Visumiri, very, very uncommon use of the infinitive. He said that he would be seen by his friend. And finally, ab amico visumesi, he said that he had been seen. Notice for all of these that say, in this sentence I've translated it as he, because I'm assuming that whoever Dixit is masculine. He said that he. The last thing to say about indirect statement is the word nego. Nego means I deny in Latin. And so our simplest translation of this sentence should be, the boy denied that he was playing in the garden. My brackets, my accusative, and my infinitive. Accusative plus infinitive. The boy denied that he was playing in the garden. But really in English, a much more common way of translating this would be, the boy said that he was not playing in the garden, because we very rarely use deny in English. So a negative indirect statement will very commonly use nego, deny, rather than putting not into the statement.